Hi everyone, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Please confirm. Am I audible? Yeah, good afternoon. Okay, yeah. So this week is week 14. This means that this will be our last in-class session for the spring semester. So by next week, we will be having our final examination. All right. So please make sure that all of your pendings starting from week number 9 up until present should be completed. Okay? All right. So this topic is under lesson 12 that is supposed to be in week number 13. And then upon checking the course syllabus, it shows that there are only 13 topics or 12 topics for this course, supply chain and management. Okay, so we will be discussing about analyze risk management and resilience strategies in global supply chains. So what is risk? Okay. So risk means the possibilities of meeting changes or of suffering harm or loss. Okay? Or risk is a phenomena or event that when occurred causes destruction. Okay? So from the word risk, no? So in business, of course, no, it is also part of our nature in business. If we are engaging business, that we are open for the possible risk, no? Kumbaga ika nga risk taker, no? So mga risk taker. Sino yung mga magbi-business? Well, they do not know that their business, or let's say sino yung mga nag-start ng business, they cannot guarantee, no, that their business would be, kumbaga magbo-boom or mag-excellent, no? Sometimes, no, because of unexpected circumstances, no, mga events na hindi inaasahan, of course the business would go down, and it would end up to something not great, no? All right, so risk management is the art of reducing the possibilities of a risk and managing those risks in such a way that their impacts can be reduced. No? Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? So, we know already the meaning of risk. No? So, we know already the meaning of risk and why there is risk management. No? Why it is called as risk management. Okay, meaning to say, risk management, it is something or somehow a preparation for the possibilities in the future. It can be identifying risk for, let's say, unexpected events such as, for example, COVID-19, or let's say typhoon or whatsoever epidemic causes, or let's say other factors such as market competencies, no? Sometimes ito yung mga hindi inaasahan natin ng mga risk in the future, right? So there are three questions in here: what can happen, how can it happen, and why could it happen, no? So these are the fundamental questions that would really dig deeper, no, in an realization that why we need to avoid and what are those things that we need to avoid, no, di ba? Meron mga ganyan ba? Okay, so what can happen, how can it happen, and why could it happen? Okay, so need of risk management. So enterprises relying on others firms for their success. Historically, enterprises have spent less than a third of their budget on purchase goods and services, having relied on internal sources for this. Okay. So, based on, the usual data, no, when it comes of, operation in operating business, no, there are guidelines, no, in each of the company or businesses. Meron sila mga guidelines na pina-follow, no? It can be based on historically, no, or in a historical data or whatsoever that could help them, no, to kumbaga they are going to establish it in in their field or in the operation. So today many enterprises spend most of their budget on purchase goods and services. This is in large part because of the advantages enterprises have found in strategies such as globalization, outsourcing, supply-based rationalization, no? Just-in-time deliveries, and lean inventories. Okay. While globalization, extended supply chains, and supplier consolidation offer many benefits in efficiency and effectiveness. They can also make supply chains more brittle and can increase risk of supply chain disruption. For example, March 2011, no, Tohoku earthquake and subsequent tsunami in Japan showed how one event can disrupt many elements of global supply chains, including supply, distribution, and communication. Or let's say the COVID-19 pandemic, no, in 2020, no, we had this experience that we experienced like the difficulties. It can be in communication, it can be moving of goods, no, specifically supply chain, right, transportation, and any other factors or any other means of for our operation, di ba? So some of the establishments during those times, no, in pandemic, nagsara, no, because they cannot survive or they don't have alternative, strategies, no, if ever let's say mga ganyang mga pangyayari, no, hindi inaasahan like pandemic, no, it's really unexpected. Okay, hi Ma'am Eson, good afternoon. All right, so yung mga ganyan, no, dapat merong kumbaga meron siyang alternative strategy, no, if ever. So ano yung mga ginagawa, no, ng other companies, for example yung mga essentials, no, but mostly during those times yung mga essentials naman talaga yung nagkaroon ng what do you call that, alternatives, no, kumbaga for example Jollibee, so they affiliated tertiary platforms, no, or third party platforms to continue their operation, but it still, no, affected the employees, of course, no, the operation and etc. All right, so but still the establishment or the organization continued, no, the operation, although there are challenges, there are adjustments, but again at least the operation didn't stop. Okay, so that's the example for during the pandemic. Here, risk management process. So first is identifying internal and external environments. Okay? So internal and external environments meaning environment, no? Internal environment meaning inside the operation, no? What are those possible risk? Okay, for example, during the production of, during the production. Okay? External environments, okay? Unexpected accidents, no? Pandemic, no? Another phenomena cause of, uncontrolled events, no? Mga typhoon and etc. Calamities rather, no? So, risk identification and assessment. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, it must be measured, no? Ano yung mga preparation if ever there is risk na mangyayari, no? So, there is an assessment and of course identification. What kind of risk might happen in internal environment or internal during the operation, and it can be also external, no, during the movement of our products. What are those possible risks, no? And number 3, or here in the third option or the third process, no, or the third step is how are we going to address those issues, no? Or how are we going um, to deal with, no, that kind of risk. Okay? So for its operation, identify the risk. So ano yung mga risk na operation? It can be for example, negligence of the employee, or let's say the workers, and etc. So those are risks. Negligence, it can cause accident, no? So that is also one of the risks. Okay, how to deal that kind of issue or concern. So dapat meron talaga tayong tinatawag na established guidelines na kung paano natin sila i-address. And of course, it must be aligned with the mandate, no, particularly in the government, no, kasi there will be legal integration, no, kumbaga ito yung mangyayari, no. For example, may during the production mayroong mga nasisirang kumbaga for example lang accident. So paano natin i-deal itong kind of issue, no? So we have to base on legal basis. Okay, so that's also a thing that we need to consider. And after that, continual monitoring and review of risk and their treatment. Okay, so here risk management process. Okay, so of course communication and consultation. So first is identifying internal and external environment, no? So it can be vice versa. After identifying internal and external environment, so of course, no, risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation, and risk treatment, no, treatment. Then okay, communication and consultation, then monitoring and review. So these are the processes, no, of risk management. Okay, so the same as what I mentioned earlier in the previous slide. So supply chain management risk. So supply chain risk as the likelihood and consequence of events as at any point in the end-to-end supply chain, from resources of raw materials to end use of customers. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned also here in our in this class, previously in our meeting, that when I was in a pizza company in Manila before, we had this experience. It's actually a risk experience wherein we unexpectedly, or one of the worker accidentally, fell the Baygon. I don't know if you're familiar with Baygon mosquito killer, no? So it smells like tawag dito, kumbaga it smells gas, no? Or gasoline, something like that, no? It fell to the freezer, na kung saan mayroong mga laman na bacon, na mga frozen goods, no? And then maybe it was really an intention of the worker not to tell, no, the management of what had happened, no? Because at that time he was that employee or that worker, he cleaned the freezer, and then he saw that there are cockroach, no, na nandun. So he used baygon, and then accidentally the baygon bottle fell on the frozen goods, no? So natapon doon yung mga ibang chemicals. So maybe for me, no, it is maybe he didn't tell us because he doesn't want, or he didn't want to get scolded by the management. That's why parang tinatago niya lang ba. Until we found out that when we took one of the pack, no, of those frozen goods, we noticed that the smell is not good, no? So I smelled it, and it's not, it's not good, no? There is smell like a gasoline, or what do you call that? Something, it's like chemical, and that's the time that I called all the workers and called their attention, asked them if who cleaned the freezer, or who opened the freezer and took frozen goods inside. And I investigated it. No one no one is willing to confess, no, kung sino yung gumagawa. No, walang maski isa na nagsabi ako yung naka ano diyan. No, ako yung may kasalanan diyan. No, no one admitted. So ang nangyari is I investigated that since, during that time, no, it was also a fault of the company not to secure or not to maintain the function of the CCTV camera, no? So the employee can easily deny that they are the ones, or maybe they are not, no? They can easily say that, oh, I am not the one, no? So what I did was I tried to investigate, talk to them, no? I talked to them like as in all of them, and then I decided to talk in one by one right after, because wala talagang nag-admit, no? Wala talagang nagsabi ako yung may kasalanan diyan, no? So I asked their colleagues, sino yung naglinis dito, sino yung nag-ano dito, sino yung naglipat ng chemical, until I found out that, yung isang worker, parang nag-ano siya ba, no? Pauutal-utal siya nagsasalita, but it doesn't mean that he is guilty, no? I still have, the benefit of the doubt not to judge that worker, because baka ganun talaga siya magsalita. Now, like me, minsan mauutal din ako, especially if I am Bisaya, then I am using Tagalog, no? Sometimes it really, it is really a problem, no? So, yun, I decided to still, accept his confession, his admission, no? He didn't do anything or whatsoever, no? And then one thing, no? One of my questions made him trapped, no? I asked, just, parang kumbaga, we called it in Bisaya like to saywar, no? No, I just make a question that, make him confess or admit. And then, until he decided to really admit. No? So I told him, next time, if ever, no, I don't want to have this like a circulation of arguments, no, reasoning or whatsoever. No, it's not good. No, it's not good practice for an organization to deny facts. No, and especially in this middle of risk. No, so actually it is actually in the middle of risk. No, kasi what if hindi namin napansin na nabigay namin yung sirang item. So what will happen? It will reflect, no, to the organization or to the company or to your business. Sabihin, oy, nalalason yung customer kasi may amoy gas yung frozen good. No? Yung pizza may amoy gas, di ba? So it's actually a risk. Okay? So, and of course, it would impact, no, to the overall operation. Kasi mag-o-overhaul lahat yan. Ano bang ibig sabihin? Ano bang ibig kong sabihin? Kung merong isang branch ng company ninyo na kung saan maka-encounter ng risk na kagaya niya, nag-aamoy chemical yung item, of course, you have to tell to all the branches that you need to check also your products if baka merong ganyang amoy. Baka you have something to find out that something is contaminated inside your freezer. Something like that. No? Titingnan talaga yan dyan. Okay? What else? Supply chain risk management as the coordination of activities to direct and control an enterprise's end-to-end supply chain with regard to supply chain risk. Okay? So, potential risk to an organization and supply chain. So, first is external end-to-end risk. No? So, mga unexpected events like natural disasters, accidents, sabotage, terrorism, crime, war, political uncertainty, labor unavailability, market challenges, lawsuits, and technological trends. No? So, these are the potential risks in external, no? Meaning to say, outside or out of control, no? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng external dito, no? Something out of control, no? Kasi it's unexpected, no? Accident in the first place, natural disasters, no? Phenomena, sabotage, terrorism, no? So they are uncontrolled or uncontrollable events. But here in supply risk or supplier risk, no? So first is physical and regulatory risk. No? So production problems, financial losses and premiums, management risk, upstream supply risk. No? So these are also ones that I mentioned earlier, no? That during the operation, production problems, management risk, and etc. No? So these are the potential risk of an organization in a supply chain. Next, potential risk to an organization and supply chain. Another one is distribution risk. No? So that is in distribution risk. First is infrastructure and availability. Infrastructure unavailability, lack of capacity, labor unavailability, cargo damage or theft, warehouse inadequacies, IT system inadequacies or failure, long multi-party supply pipelines. Okay? But most commonly, in distribution risk, here, usually in the Philippines, we encounter like labor unavailability, no? Sometimes cargo damage or theft, no? What else? Lack of capacity, no? Warehouse inadequacies, no? So these are actually, the common, risk, no, in distribution here in the Philippines, no? Okay, so internal enterprise risk. So first is operational, no? Political uncertainty, demand variability, personal availability, no? Personnel, design uncertainty, planning failures, financial uncertainty, facility unavailability, testing and availability, enterprise underperformance, supplier relationship management. Why they have this listed, potential risk, no? Actually, these are the areas where management should focus. No, these are the areas that the organization should look at. No, the possible pros and cons in their operation. Okay, at least we have this list already, and then they have to identify which one has a possible risk, no, inside the organization. No. So internal enterprise risk, distribution risk, and etc. Next, identifying internal and external environment. First, risk exists at discrete levels and entities within an organization. So manufacturing risk exists at manufacturing sites. No? So gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, during the production, yung unexpected na natapunan ng no? So it's actually risk during manufacturing, no? Also. Because I considered that because those goods na nandun sa freezer, nakasama siya doon sa mga newly produced items like mga dough, di ba? Manual na ginagawa ng yan, no? Ng production. Because it was a pizza company, no? Yung dough, yung tomato sauce, no? So during the production or after the production, all of those items should be placed inside the freezer. Wherein all those good items also such bacon, pepperoni, and other related ingredients are placed in the same freezer. So it can also be possibly, no, to be contaminated unexpectedly. No? Supplier risk exists at supplier sites, including those of sub-tier suppliers. Distribution risk exists at suppliers and in upstream and downstream transportation and logistics systems. Legislative, compliance, intellectual property, and regulatory risk exist at the country or regional level for multinational enterprises. Finally, strategic risk exists at the business unit or corporate level. So, external environment risk, natural risk to transportation and security. No? So, risk identification. So, two types of risk. No? First is the retrospective risk. No? So, retrospective risk are those that have previously occurred, such as incidents or accidents. It is easier to believe something if it has happened before. It is also easier to quantify its impact and to see the damage it has caused. That is retrospective risk. No? Ito yung mga event na nangyayari before na gusto nyong iiwasan in the future. No? Nasaktan ka na ng una, dapat hindi ka na masasaktan ulit sa darating na araw. Di ba, Sir Jomar? No? Nasasaktan ka ba before, Sir Jomar? Or ngayon patuloy nasasaktan? Nasasaktan din, no? No? Gaya ni Miss Mary, no? In love na in love, so walang masakit. Okay lang, no? Sana all. No? So how to identify retrospective risk, no? So first, hazard of incident logs or registers. So that is why, no, it is important also in an organization that we have this log of events, no? Kaya nga merong mga, let's say, dapat ngayon dapat we have to log in all the details in the operation, no? Ilan yung damage na mga item, ilan yung mga ganyan, because they are important later on during the recollection of information, no? So kung nagkakataon during that day of operation meron diyang na accident, so kasali yan sa ilalagay, and investigate what are the causes of accidents and how did you deal that, situation, no? Audit reports, so most probably this will happen every end of the month or every end of the year, but mostly every end of the month, especially if there are a lot of stuffs, no, for assigned for that area, no? Customer complaints, no? So you have also to log, no, the customer complaints, because that would be also your basis later on kung merong mga concerns coming from your customers, no? Accreditation documents and reports, no? So it is also important, no, that you can secure all these documents or this accreditation permits, no, for you to be legally operate your business. Okay? Past staff or client surveys, no, so but actually, in I don't know in other country, but here in the Philippines I didn't notice, or I didn't hear, no, that past staff are asked, no, to answer surveys based on how they experience, or how they or what are those experience, or what they experience in the company, no? But I didn't hear that incident. But for client survey, it is common because that would also the basis for the organization to take note all those concerns or areas that needs improvement, no? So parang ganyan. Newspaper or professional media such as journals or websites. So number 2, prospective risk, no? So prospective risk are often harder to identify. These are things that have not yet happened but might happen sometime in the future. So that is why many companies are very vigilant, no, when it comes of possible risk, no? Just simple analogy, no? For kind of company like dapat gawin natin to ahead of time, kasi baka pagdating ng araw is wala tayong opportunity to make this preparation, di ba? That is prospective risk. Alam niya the possibilities na kung saan napakataas ng demand ngayon, or let's say there are possibilities na masisira ang machine during these days, no? During this period masisira yung mga machines. So as much as possible na maganda yung operation, maganda yung ating machines na ginagamit, so we have to make sure na meron tayong ma-produce the products as many as we can, no? So here, identifications should include all risk, okay? all risk, whether or not they are currently being managed. The rationale here is to record all significant risk and monitor or review the effectiveness of their control. How to identify? No? So first is brainstorming with staff or external stakeholders, researching the economic, political, legislative, and operating environment, conducting interviews with relevant people and organizations, um, undertaking surveys of staff or clients that identify anticipated issues or problems, flow charting a process, reviewing system design, or preparing system analysis techniques. Okay? So risk analysis and evaluation. So risk analysis process is to estimate the likelihood and consequence of risk facing a firm and accordingly prioritize them for ultimate treatment. No? So in this presentation, as you can see, there is a 2 by 2 or 2 by 2 impact or probability matrix. No? So here, as you can see, there is high and low. Same as here, this area. No? Under probability, there is a high and a low. And other impact, there is also high and low. So this step is about deciding whether risks are acceptable or need treatment. No? So green, meaning to say it's good. No? It is a sign or it is a color that indicates, safe, no? Being healthy. The operation is healthy and far from possible risk. Okay? And then for yellow, it is ongoing. No? It is something that is ongoing or something that we need to prepare of. And red here indicates, of course, no, the total risk. No? It is very close, no, to the said risk. Okay? So it is about warning. No? Warning. So risk acceptance, a risk may be accepted for the following reason. So the cost of treatment far exceeds the benefit, so that acceptance is the only option. Okay, applies particularly to lower rank risk. Okay, the level of the risk is so low that specific treatment is not appropriate with available resources. The opportunities presented outweigh the threats to such a degree that the risk justified. The risk is such that there is no treatment available. For example, the risk that the business may suffer storm damage. Okay? So, that is why ignoring risk doesn't make the risk go away. No? So, hindi ibig sabihin na kumbaga dinidedma or ini-ignore mo yung possible risk, hindi na siya mangyayari or maging impossible na yan sa'yo. No? That you are wrong with that. No? So, if there is possible risk that you can see in the operation, make sure that you are prepared of it, accept it as a challenge, no, for the operation or for you, no, to how to handle that kind of, risk in the operation. Okay. So risk treatment strategy. So avoidance, no? Changing a project objective to eliminate the threat posed by an adverse risk event. Transference, so shifting the negative impact of a threat, allowing with the ownership of the response to a third party. Mitigation, so reducing the probability or impact of an adverse risk, event, or threat to an acceptable threshold. Then, of course, acceptance, so the project team decides not to change project objectives to deal with the risk. Then, passive acceptance, so no action, deal with threats as they occur. No? So, active acceptance, establish a contingency reserve to handle the risk. So, exploit, this strategy seeks to eliminate the uncertainty with an opportunity by changing a project objective to ensure it happens. Then share, so allocating ownership of the positive risk event to a third party who is best able to capture the opportunity for the project. Then enhance, okay, increasing the probability and or positive impact of an opportunity. Next is contingency, so not a risk response, but an output from risk planning. Develop for actively accepted project risk. This is typically defined as time or funds. Yeah? And of course, continual monitoring of risk and treatment. Okay? So once the threat are identified or risk are identified, you have to still implement the continuous monitoring of risk, no, and its treatment. Okay, so after identifying and retreating risk, so firms should implement a monitoring program evaluating plans, procedures, and capabilities through periodic review, testing, post-incident reports, and other exercises. So it should check conformity and effectiveness of the program, establish, implement, and maintain procedures for monitoring and taking a corrective action as necessary. Then testing and adjusting the plan if it requires in order to reduce cost or threat. So areas of continual adjustment. So if the risk is more obvious and will remain with process due government or their regulatory environment. Next, okay, the conclusion. So effective supply chain risk management is essential to a successful business. As globalization increases, so too do the critical interdependence and complexities between suppliers, logistics providers, and successful enterprise. A breakdown in any part of the supply chain connecting these entities can potentially lead to consequences. Now, while no risk management program can fully predict, mitigate, or prevent all risks or consequences, companies that proactively implement a supply chain risk management program will be more resilient and prepared for the day when a risk becomes real. No? So that is why it is really important that we are always prepared of the possibilities. No? So we continue, although there are already established plans, established strategies in the operation or in an organization, make sure to keep updated, no? Because there are a lot of new possible risks that sometimes it is really difficult to deal with, especially nowadays. If let's say we are in let's say our business is mostly we are using websites or we are using digital tools, no, in order for us to continue our markets or whatsoever that needs internet, no? So it's really essential that there should be an adoption of updated version of technology, no? Especially AI, no? And other platforms that could help, no? For our or for us, no, to develop strategies that might avoid or that might also prevent, no, from unexpected risk, no, in the operation, no, something like that. So we are always or we must be always be prepared. Okay, so any questions so far, everyone? Questions? Okay, so by next week, it's same timing. We will have our final exam. So the coverage of the exam will start from week number 9 until week number 14. So that would be the coverage. And the exam will be, can be multiple choice. And maybe there are also essays, but we will check. Okay, so it will be available on Saturday, the same timing, 1 p.m. So please make sure that you are available on time because I will post the test at exactly 1 p.m. UAE time, or that will be 5 p.m. Philippine time. Okay. So if you don't have questions or clarification, thank you so much, guys, for your time. But by the way, after the final exam by next week, try to visit your profile and Moodle because usually, in the previous semesters, we wait or you students wait for the Richmond Dale now to send your grade certificate. But now, there's already feature on Moodle wherein you check your profile and then there is a button there. It says My Certificate. In there, you can see your grades, or when you click that, yeah, when you click that or when you click download under My Certificate, it would automatically send in your email, no? Or the certificate would automatically send in your email. Okay, so you can check your grades anytime after the final exam. So try to visit your model, and then under profile, then check my certificate. Then click that, click download, and then later you can see the grade certificate in your email. Okay? So if you don't have questions, thank you so much for your time, and God bless you. Have a great Saturday. Happy weekends. Yes, Miss Angel. Yeah. Next time, based on our meeting, it would start on June 16. I think there is only 1 week for semester break. Yeah. All right. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Sige. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck and have a great day. Goodbye.